Our next topic, should green charges be...
I want to say something, let me just drink my tea.
Extra energy bills to make them cheaper. 0207 862 2222 is the number. Some of the biggest energy companies have warned that bills will continue to rise even if wholesale prices fall dramatically due to add-on costs, including those related to climate change and clean energy.
If we continue on the path that we're on right now, in all likelihood, electricity prices for a typical customer are going to be 20% higher in 4 or 5 years' time than they are now.
You know, if I look at the non-commodity costs, policy costs, network costs, then certainly some of the numbers, some of the modelling that we have suggests that you could get to a position by 2030 where if the wholesale price was zero, bills would still be the same as they are today because of the increase in those non-commodity costs.
I mean, that's amazing. If the cost of the gas or electricity was zero, you might not see the cost to the customer fall. So the government called the warnings of energy bosses speculation. They say making Britain a clean energy superpower is the only way to permanently bring down bills. It's been reported that the Chancellor Rachel Reeves is looking at ways to cut energy bills in next month's budget. So there's two options on the table, really. One is she could take VAT off, which would be massive. The other one, Marvyn, is she could actually just say, look, we're not doing the green stuff anymore.
I think abandoning green again still doesn't solve the long-term problem. And I do remember specifically 2 years ago, my energy bills for my 3-bedroom family home went from £80 a month to £100 a week. And it was unbearable for many people who were in my family, in my community, that shift. We need a long-term plan. And I think a lot of the shortism, which mainly gets driven by the more right side of things, they want to explore fossil fuels to the very end and rely on Russia and whoever else in the Middle East to be able to provide our fuel, and it isn't working. We do need a long-term plan, even if it takes 25 million and some squeeze points. Like, the thing that I feel like is that nobody observes Britain as a long-term state or project. It's always a sort of what's happening now, how do we feel now, project. Making sweeping state changes which have huge long-term implications without any real concern for the next generation. It's really, really disappointing.
Yeah, well, you probably agree with that last part, Anne. We haven't done long-term planning very well.
Well, I mean, I look at sheer proportionality. You know, Britain contributes less than 1% of the world's carbon emissions. China and the United States, between them, nearly half. Therefore, I look at this proportionately. Is Britain driving itself towards a net zero target? Really a sensible way of going forward when you look at the cost to individual families. Now, we're paying over apparently 20 billion a year on electricity bills purely for the green policy costs. I think it's completely disproportionate. And, of course, who's losing? The ordinary consumer, just the ordinary family. They're the ones losing. Now, Rachel Reeves has got precious little room for manoeuvre in her budget. Whether she will make a big difference, I don't know. But as far as I'm concerned, disproportionate, drop the target.
OK, after the break, we'll take calls on this, whether green charges should be axed to bring down the cost of our energy bills. Are you happy to pay more to help the environment and get us to net zero or not? Give us a call with your thoughts. 0207 862 2222 is the number. You're taking your calls on whether green charges should be axed to make energy bills cheaper. 0207 862 2222. So I'll show you now how they impact our energy bills. I will take you into a little apartment where there's, as you can see, there's some lighting here. We've got the light bulb glowing, and then the oven, I think, is on, because I could definitely see some smoke coming out of that. So they're cooking using gas and then heating again using gas. So I think the radiator's glowing. All right. So there's a little bit of a bill going. Now, in terms of what you would expect your bill to be for your domestic fuel, let's have a look at how the numbers have gone. Total bill annually under the energy price cap, on average, £1,755. It's a lot, isn't it? The green bit of it, though, the extra add-on, is 154. It's not quite, no, it's less than 10%, but there's quite a bit there. What does that go for? Because the government could cancel that, and everyone would say, a lot of people would say, thank you very much. Let's have a look at what it goes for. There's a sort of a list that's a bit... I've put it on this roof and I got bored even putting it down, but I'm sure it's all very good. Encourage suppliers to increase renewable electricity. That's about suppliers building turbines. Pay households generating renewable electricity. So that's if you put solar panels on, you get an incentive. Support suppliers to improve their energy efficiency. That's about insulation. And finally, help fund the production of greener alternatives to gas. So that's where your 150 quid go. And of course, and people look at that and they say, well, that's just a load of old waffle.
Well, it's just completely, as I've said, disproportionate. When you think of the contribution that Britain makes to world's carbon emissions, so you look at the contribution of countries like China and the US, and who is being punished for all of this? The ordinary consumer. And it is so completely out of all proportion to what can be achieved.
Marvyn.
I'm not quite sure I could say out of proportion. It works out less than £15 a month per household, which I'm not saying is nothing, but it's not particularly, it's not a council tax. And so I think it's something that should be taken out of the people's hands. If the government is genuinely investing in greener fuels, then I think that's a strategy of the government and they should be able to put that in place. It shouldn't be the individual to decide whether they are going to contribute £15 a month to the future of cleaner energy for this country. That should be something that the government decides in long-term planning.
Well, it is the government.
Pathetically low. We have such a pathetically low carbon emission as it is.
I don't think it's a carbon emission conversation, though.
But what they're being asked to do is just so unfair. I mean, the whole thing, electricity bills we're talking about now, but there's also the whole thing about the type of boilers that they've now got to have, which are more expensive, in electric cars. The whole of the cost of this nonsense is falling on the ordinary person. And I'm very pleased to say that the party that I belong to will get rid of it.
Yep, that is the Reform Party. Are they going to get rid of it? Because they keep changing their policies. I wasn't sure.
No, we haven't changed our policy on that one. We've been utterly consistent throughout that it's disproportionate, unfair, and we're getting rid of it.
OK. Tom in Manchester, do you think the government should just say, look, the Green thing, they love Ed Miliband, his heart's in the right place, but no one can afford this £154?
Morning, Jeremy. Good morning, panel. This is just another cost which the people who can't afford and are struggling in society are going to feel the pinch for it. I mean, what happened to this old GB energy? Your bills are going to be £400 cheaper, which they mentioned this time 12 months ago. That seems to have soon fallen through, didn't it? If anything, they've got more expensive. But, with regards to the renewals and the green energy, them lists that you've just named off, Jeremy, unbelievable. Encouraging suppliers.
Yeah, I don't know why that would cost money. Yeah, no, I don't encourage. You can encourage people quite cheaply, yeah.
Ridiculous.
Yeah, it may be that the way that was expressed was boring, but I was falling. Marvyn, I'm sorry, I was falling asleep during it. It's not. Those 4 lines are enough to send anyone to sleep.
I think in terms of compounding the benefits, the language definitely isn't accessible to every person at home. If you ask anybody at home anything you want to receive, including TV license, do you want to pay up front or just scrap it? Everything is let's just scrap it.
Yeah.
This is why I say it has to come outside of the hands and genuinely into a vision for the country long term.
So, I suppose to sub it down, it's basically insulating homes and building wind turbines.
But also they have to subsidise. They have to subsidise energy companies for the potential loss of revenue in the long-term shift of moving to greener energies. That's what it comes down to. And the way that we treat private businesses in this country, which aren't necessarily always British owned, means that money is leaving our country anyway. So the long-term transition through shareholder value, that anyone can invest in any of these energy companies. And so the fact that this long-term strategy isn't benefiting Britain as a whole, it's important that we look at what do we do to save people money up front.
OK. You're not convinced?
Well, as I've used the word disproportionate so often now.
Yeah.
It's hardly worth repeating it, but I just do not see that the gain is worth the pain, quite honestly.
But does it make... So when Trump comes in and he says, we're going to drill, baby, drill, on day one, do you think that makes it more or less urgent that we do our bit?
Well, I think very strongly that every country should be self-sufficient in energy, if it can be. And we could be if we drill, baby, drill. I can't do the accent like you can.
Yeah.
But there are all sorts of ways.
Would Farage say that, do you think?
Not in that accent, he
drill,
wouldn't.
Baby, drill.
But, you know, when it comes to being self-sufficient, we've got loads of reserves, the North Sea and elsewhere. And I feel that that is what we should be going for rather than wasting money on this. And the other thing I would add is this, and it's very well known now. You know, Ed Miliband's got this policy of importing all these solar panels. Where do they come from? China.
Yeah.
Who makes them? Very, very low earners. They've got to be transported. What does that do? Costs a wee bit of carbon. No, absolute rubbish.
All right.
Absolute rubbish.
Would you reopen coal mines?
1 or 2, yes.
Yeah. Graham's in Glasgow. Hi, Graham.
Good morning.
What do you think? Should they just knock out this £154 that we all pay?
Yes. I
Yes.
think the only way to stop the economy is to get rid of the green policies. It's the only way to stop inflation, reduce prices, because companies will be paying less in electricity. Like steel, your pub, you name it, everybody uses power. And if it's reduced, then it'll stop inflation, it'll create jobs, and then we'll not be in the mess we're in now. And I've become a climate sceptic because history and new scientific evidence shows it's rubbish.
Well, is it the Chinese are obviously, although we think of them as being very dirty, and it's because actually they're gradually getting richer and there are a lot of them, they may come to some technical solutions quicker than we think because they have to. Because they're also worried about climate change, funnily enough, the Chinese. I mean, they've had floods and they've had storms and they are...
Really, that is absolutely a case of saying one thing and doing another. If they're worried about climate change, their contribution to global carbon emissions is rather contradictory.
Yeah, but that's because there are a lot of Chinese people around. I mean, that's
yeah, there are a lot of Chinese people.
If everyone in China gets a fridge, the planet's going to die, isn't it? You know, that's kind of where we're at. Or a Range Rover.
No, it is not where we're at. But that is the sort of alarmist stuff that is behind the whole net zero lobby. And I think as I say, we just got to get a sense of proportion back and everything will be fine.
Thank you, Graham. After the break, more calls on this, whether we should axe green charges to help bring down our energy bills. That's the really simple thing. Rachel Reeves doesn't need to panic. Just do it and have a word with Ed Miliband and tell him to pipe down. 0207. Before the break, we asked the former US President Theodore Roosevelt reportedly banned what from the White House? Christmas trees, dogs, bubblegum. The answer is the old Christmas trees. And you know what? Because he was worried about deforestation. He was there early, wasn't
Another
he?
misery.
Oh, Anne.
Abolishing Christmas trees.
I think we should put our Christmas tree up when the clocks go back.
Start earlier.
That's a week's time.
I'm happy to start earlier for Christmas.
I'm not. I can remember the time when you decorated your tree on Christmas Eve.
Yeah.
No,
Really?
We remember those
Yeah, I
years.
really can.
Can
you remember
December
that?
1st?
Yes,
was too late.
just after the war, yeah.
I beg your pardon. Thank you.
Later on, we'll debate whether we need to pedestrianise more high streets. But now, more calls on whether green charges should be axed from energy bills to make them cheaper. 020 7862 2222. Right, Jeff is in Devon. I don't know whether you noticed your little green levy on the bill, Jeff.
Not yet, actually. Good morning, Jeremy and
Morning.
panel. I'm 84, and it sounds that I haven't come up with any good suggestions how to sort of make things greener. But in the war, our scientists and also the enemy scientists, they designed energy called producer gas, and the buses down in Brighton, they used to have a trailer on the back and it sort of served that the. Well, there was a shortage, obviously, on fuel.
Yeah.
And I thought, well, modern-day scientists, why can't they come up with... they've now got electric buses down here, and why can't they come up with something akin to the old producer gas, but not a trailer on the back of a bus or a car, but it was a cheap way of us using. In fact... I thought it would be a good idea for our scientists to make things greener by designing something.
Something like producer gas. Did you heard of that?
No,
I didn't know about that.
I mean,
also, have you got to carry a trailer on the back of a bus for the gas? I don't know. But the reason that people like electric cars, apparently, is that it's very wasteful to carry the fuel to the car and have it burn in the car, i.e. petrol, compared to having a massive power station generating electricity that you store in a battery and then you put in the car. Yeah. So ideally you want to generate all the power in one place and then move it. So I don't know. I sort of think, I hope that maybe we're near the sun, for crying out loud. Can't we just edge a bit closer or something?
What?
Why have we got so many problems with heat? You know, we got this weird situation. We're told it's global warming, but the main challenge for all of us is to heat our homes cheaply in winter. It's a great paradox. I don't really get it.
Well, it's only a paradox if you believe all the alarmism on global warming. Now, the Earth is warming up. I don't deny that. It's warmed and it's cooled throughout its history. And I just think we've now got everything out of proportion. We're convinced it's solely, man-made.
But the warming now is at a pace we've never seen before. Even I understand that. And also, it seems to be traceable back to the Industrial Revolution and what followed. In other words, we blanketed the Earth in carbon, and now we're paying the price.
If you actually look at all the predictions that have been made, in the 70s, we were told we were probably heading for another ice age. Yeah. Then when we got some quite sensible stuff from the Hadley Centre and we measured the Earth's temperature every year, we were told that it was going to go on increasing. It stopped for 15 years. And then we were told, oh, well, that didn't really count. Something else happened. I'm sick of it. Let's bring some common sense.
I do think clean air is a genuine concern, and I do think it's something that we need to look at. But as I said,
clean air is different.
It's a very different issue. And I think longer term, we are talking about the cost of energy, which is the primary issue. And us also being in control of our energy supply is the number one issue.
Well, why have we not just fracked this country to death? I mean, what happened to fracking?
Well, again, I think that's an environmental concern, and even if you don't agree with environmental concerns, you think that that's noise.
Is there an environmental concern? I've not heard anything.
It does destabilise the environment by doing so. I think the most important thing is there is a better answer, and the better answer needs to be funded. And if it's not going to be funded privately, then the government's responsibility is to create that funding in the most efficient way, which is what they're doing now.
I see. OK. Karen in the Scottish Borders, are you happy to pay this £150 levy, or should Rachel Reeves cancel it?
I'll give you two guesses. One of them's no.
No, and therefore yes. OK.
Yes.
But Marvin's saying, and there's a lot of justice in Marvin's argument. The government needs to prime the pump to get the wind turbines working and the tidal power, and then hopefully we'll be OK.
Yeah, but it's as Anne was saying, a lot of. If anybody knows how these wind turbines are planted, there's over 90,000 tonnes of concrete that goes into the ground, everything like that. This is so far from green energy, it's ridiculous.
I mean, I've seen reports.
Don't want to say.
I was going to say this week there was an environmental group which said we need to stop putting them in the Highlands because we're losing one of the areas of great natural beauty. And I thought, well, that's unusual to have an environmental group saying that.
Well, maybe they're waking up.
This is what's happening in the borders as well.
Really?
There's one of the main companies who are wanting to put pylons right across. And the main reason is because it's cheaper for the company.
I know, but listen, the pylon thing is big because they're going to use tidal power off Scotland. That should be brilliant. It's the most basic thing. They've got to generate it at sea and they've got to bring it down to, a power factory or whatever. And that will need wires. And then you've got to run a cable down the central spine of Scotland. And if you run it underground, it's literally 5 times more expensive. Yep. So they say, well, that's fine. We'll use pylons. And then I'm not surprised, Karen. You say, wait, what are we doing with pylons in the 21st century?
I do think it makes a lot of sense for environmentalist groups to be challenging environmental policies, friendly policies, and interrogating what the value is compared to the reward. The answer then to any of that discussion isn't then that we just don't do any of it and we just frack our way for the next 100 years. We need a sustainable long-term solution. There is always going to be a form of environmental cost when it comes to creating energy, period. That's never going to change.
Howarth's in Derbyshire. Hi, Howarth.
Hi there. You're talking about something I'm really passionate about.
Right.
And Anne Whittington,
yes.
I think she's marvellous. She's got the right idea.
Well, a lot of people think she should be Prime Minister.
Yeah, she should be, definitely. Yeah.
What do you say? You think we should just scrap the green levy?
Well, definitely.
Yes.
Why should we be paying this? We could, solar panels on green fields are ridiculous. You go on the M1, there's all these factories, storage places with flat roofs, with no solar panels on them.
Yeah.
There's rivers, we could use the river at the bottom of our road. That could be supplying our electrics for all these bungalows here. There's so much that could be done.
Well, it sounds like you do want a green levy because you like all this stuff.
Sorry, me. But we're paying this green levy, but they're not doing things that they should be doing.
Okay, Howard, thank you very much. Thank you. Paul has said on Facebook, we should be going green because it makes sense financially and ethically. There we are. That's the last word on this for the time being.